Welcome, everybody, to the WellWaveNOW show. This is our backstory series, and today's guest is Hilary Loftus. We're excited to learn more about Hilary and her background as we are preparing to have her on to the podcast. But we wanted to learn a little more about you as a person before we get into your topic. So, Hilary, where's home for you? Where did you grow up?
Thank you, Brock. It's great to be here. I grew up um, all over the place until I was in third grade because my father was in residency. And then when he finished, he opened his practice in Stamford, Connecticut. So he was the first cardiovascular surgeon actually in Stamford, Connecticut back in the day. So he, let's see, was in residency in Brookline, Massachusetts, and then in Montreal before that. So being the first of eight kids, I got to experience, the very beginnings of my father's career and my parents' marriage and family.
Yeah, wow. So,
Mhm.
where have you stayed on the East Coast? Where's home for you today?
Yeah, so I lived in Boynton Beach, Florida,
Okay.
and I moved here almost 10 years ago.
Yeah, it sounds like you really migrated away from the snow, though, right? You stayed on
There
the
you
East
go.
Coast, but to get to a wonderful climate.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. I've been following the sun for a long time. Yes, exactly. And the warm weather. Yeah, I was always a summer girl in New England. And then as soon as it was, time in my family, as soon as my son was graduated from college and well established in Boston, I headed south and for Boynton Beach, and I've been here ever since.
So,
Mhm.
so before you headed south and you were still up in New England, and I always never know where New England really starts. It starts someplace in Connecticut, but we don't know where exactly, maybe Stamford. Um, what type of activities did you take part in coming up? Were you and those, you said summer activity, were you athletic? Did you play music? Did you go sit in your father's surgery room and watch him? What'd you do?
Well, yeah, being the first, I think the first three or four of us kids got exposed to a lot, and then just got, and you have more than four or five, it just kind of everybody's in different directions. Yeah, so I was played piano, I was given piano lessons. And I love music. Both my parents loved music. My mother loved classical, my father loved jazz. And they both loved.
Did you play both? Did you study classical and then slip on over into jazz, or did you just go? What'd you do?
Well, I was classically trained. Actually, I didn't love the piano lessons. My teacher was very strict, and it was 4 years before I could stop. But I did learn to read music. So as an adult, when I was married, and then raising a family, and later on, I always had a piano in my home, and um, I always liked both. And I like to improvise on the piano. So just as long as it sounds good, I don't really. I look at the notes on the for as a guide, but I like to improvise as well. And I think that's kind of a metaphor for life, or how I approach things in
Yeah.
general.
But that strict
Mhm.
account teacher, a piano account teacher, a strict piano teacher as a child was not a fond memory for you. What kind of memory do you take forward from your childhood that you do kind of cherish?
Actually, speaking of physical activity, I began sailing. I loved horses, and I love animals. I always have, people and animals. But my mother, and being from a big family too, horses are so crazy expensive. So they were a little loath to let me, follow that passion. But my mother had learned to sail back in the day at a camp, and she loved it. And I finally tried it when I was 9 and kind of fell in love with it. It was my replacement for riding horses. And so I was trained to race competitively. And back then, there were a lot more boys in sailing than there were girls. But we were all friends, and it was so much fun. And it was kind of my escape, really, for the hard work of being the first of eight kids. So out in the on the water, you're free, and you can do what you want, and as long as you have to learn the skills, and that was pretty easy for me. And our race coach, they started training us to race. Well, when I was 12, our race coach didn't care if you were a girl or boy or what. He just liked to win. And I was a lot lighter than most of the boys. So, we raced and practiced in Stamford, and there's not that much wind there in the harbor, as you know from being from Stamford. And so the lighter you are in a small boat, the faster the wind can push you. So, our coach was always really happy when, we did well. So I would normally place first, second, or third. I like to, he was a great coach, and he was our coach for 6 years. He's young, so that's some great memories, and that kind of and we were very competitive as well. And he actually made me the captain of our racing team when I was 15. And I think back then I didn't realize it at the time, but I mean, the boys didn't, they didn't care. We all got along really well. And, we all just wanted to win. And I think since there weren't or hardly any girls in sailing back then, he kind of used me, if you will, because to make as a competitive advantage, because the other team saw us and saw there was a girl captain, and they thought, oh, they can't be very good. So yeah, but we won that year. So it was really a lot of fun. And yeah, it's, in sports, I think, so much, especially when you're young, depends on the coach, who the coaches are. And he was great. And I also had a wonderful female coach as well. I think it was when I was 14. And
So
that was a really good role model for me.
yeah, so you had those two. They're good role models that influence you. Would you but looking at it, who kind of influenced you the most as a child and has impacted your direction?
Um, hmm. Well, I think, the coaches incredibly, because my race coach that we had for 6 years, Gary, he just, he instilled the love of winning and doing your best. And he was a little, they trained me to be the skipper to represent. It was the club for the girls' championships. They took the top girl skipper from all the clubs and had them race against each other. And I was 15, and that was the youngest that you could do that. And then it was 15 to 18. And I was a little overwhelmed actually, because the other two girls in my boat were older than I was. And he, explained to me, because I mentioned that I didn't really want to be the skipper, couldn't one of them. And he said, you don't have to win for us this year, Hilary. This is just to get exposure to the, environment, and see what it's like. And then you can, bring us silver when you're 18. And which is really, the process of sports. But I didn't really, I had, my parents weren't athletic. They were, competitive. My grandparents on my mother's side were very athletic, but they lived in the Midwest. So I wasn't, and there were so many of us, I wasn't raised with that thoughtful kind of competitive sports process that, well, it's not even, as a former sports mom, my son played two sports through senior year in high school. It's not, even with only one, it's not always that easy to be, thoughtful and really, put everything that you want to in them. And they're just very fortunate if, we're all fortunate if they have good coaches,
Yeah.
the importance of good coaches. So I remember one time Gary was pushing me. I mean, he was drilling me, and I really wanted to do well for him and not let him down. But being a girl, tears came in my eyes. I started crying because I didn't want to disappoint him. And my female coach was in the boat with me, and she stood up and she yelled at him. And she explained that, she yelled that he was pushing me too hard, and I was trying so hard to please him that if he did that again, she was leaving. And so that inspired me too as a female role model. So together they were great. I mean, I think they gave me an example of, how to win and succeed in life. And then, how as a woman I could stand up as well for, who I am and what I believe
And that really sounds like a very impressionable time in your life, and a big part of your growing up was focused around sailing as a sport. Do you keep it up today? Do
in.
you continue to sail?
I do actually. And actually, I was in the sailing industry professionally for 15 years. So it's something that I always enjoyed and kept up with most of my life. I did also veer into dance as a teenager, an older teenager, and I actually minored in dance in college. So there was always some kind of physical activity in my life. It was very important. But yeah, so I still sail for fun and competitively with my friends in Connecticut. I go back, they have races on the Connecticut River. I think it's Tuesday and Wednesday night. So if I'm there on a Tuesday and Wednesday night, yeah, I can
Fun.
race with them.
That's
Yeah,
really fun.
it's
So
so much fun.
you mentioned earlier that you are the oldest of eight, so you have
Hmm.
a good sized family. Are there any family traditions that you have continued to carry on with your own family?
Yeah, I'd say so. Some of the traditions that, pretty much stuck with all of us, we really enjoyed. Um, and, with eight children, and it really fell upon my mother to do it because, my father is a surgeon, wasn't around very much, especially for holidays. I mean, he was on call on holidays and anything could happen at any time. And there seemed to be more, incidents, emergency room incidents around Christmas and Thanksgiving and Easter, the holidays. But yeah, we'd have, the presents and the Christmas tree and we were raised Catholic and, go to church and then the presents and just have it celebrate the joy of kind of giving and being together as a family on the holidays. And I always, incorporated that with my son growing up. Yeah, with my family.
So excellent. Now, so do you just have the one child?
I do. I raised my stepdaughter when I was married, actually from ages 9 through 15. And I was the only full-time stepmother in New Canaan, Connecticut, which is where I lived when I was married. But then, yeah, she went back to Washington State. Her natural mother wanted her back. So and she was 12 when my son was born. So yeah, it was not easy, but she was a wonderful, talented, beautiful, charming little girl. And she ended up doing very well by the time she left. So,
Great. So
yeah.
you
Mhm.
raised at least a child and a half, we'll say. But
Yeah.
you had your
Mhm.
selling, you went into the selling industry kind of professionally for a while. So, but now you're in the wellness world. So, what is the essence now of your wellness work, and what do you personally get out of it, Hilary?
So, I guess wellness has always been important to me. And, majoring in psych in college and and minoring in dance or movement. So it's really kind of the mind body connection. And that's always been important to me. And being, from a medical family, and my father was he loved what he did. He was very patient centered. He'd talk about his patients at the dinner table. And he was also very excited about the latest and greatest innovations in cardiovascular surgery and cardiac care. I remember one morning on my way to school, I felt something, under the seat. He was driving and I pulled it, I sat down, it was winter and I was just trying to get warm and I pulled it out and it was something in a plastic bag. And I said, Dad, what's this? And he said, Oh, Hillary, put that down on the floor. That's a pacemaker I took out of somebody at 3 a.m. this morning.
So
So
he took out and put in pacemakers, but now what do you do in the
Mhm.
wellness world?
Yeah. So, okay. So after I was in the sailing industry for 15 years, and I mean, I had fabulous experiences and got to introduce so many children. And adults to the sport of sailing, and I developed a competitive racing program. That's actually why I was hired for this one large marina where the general manager had been in the America's Cup several times. That's why they hired me, was to develop a competitive racing program, because I had other skills as well that I could work for them year round and do events and things like that. So, but I was so tired at the end of the day after, 8 or 9 years being out on the water, I was refusing invitations to race and sail how I want to sail. And so it's one thing to love a sport and compete in it and enjoy it. It's another thing to do it professionally. Um, so if you still want to enjoy your sport. So then I thought I'll just get a regular job, like most of the people I know who sail that I race with have a regular job. And healthcare is something that, I've always been interested in. And I was hired as a physicians and marketing and rep and a program developer for.
But is that what you do now, Hilary? Or what do you
No.
what are you
So what
doing?
I do
What are you doing
now,
now?
yeah, is, I use all my experience in education to do marketing, business strategy and development. And I do this in the world of medical grade hyperbaric oxygen therapy. So that's something that I'd heard about in Connecticut through my former work, but I didn't know about it for brain injuries until I moved to Florida and was introduced to it, and actually to the foundation that I worked for 9 years, by a family doctor down here.
And what attracted you to that technology? Because that's fairly new, right?
Well, actually, it's been around, believe it or not. That's what everybody thinks. And I've given presentations on the history of it and all that, so I've researched it. But it's been around since the 1600s.
Yeah, I'm going
Mhm.
to qualify my statement. It's fairly new to the public. So
Correct.
yeah, it's been
Absolutely.
around, but
Yes.
yeah, but
Hmm.
to the
So,
public and making it more readily available for athletes and
hmm,
others. So what
yes,
attracted you?
absolutely. Really, you know, the outcomes. I mean, my world has always been about the people. I love people. I love helping people. I'm kind of a Pollyanna. I'd love to see the whole world happy and healthy, and that makes me happy. And so when I started volunteering for Howe Foundation, and I saw these veterans and a former NFL player that had been treated, I would kind of interview them, ask them, how were you before the treatments, and you know, how do you feel now? So it didn't make sense to me, and I needed to learn about it. And so they all said, oh, we were, the veterans especially, we couldn't sleep for 7 years or 12 years or 15 years. And then after several sessions, we started sleeping through the night. And they were all given 40 sessions then because they had severe TBI or PTSD or both.
Right.
And then the outcomes, I mean, the first one that Howe Foundation treated, he had been a pilot for the Navy and the Army and served 20 years. And you add TBI and PTSD. And of course, couldn't fly when he came back. He took his license away after 40 sessions. He was able to get his license back. So,
Wow.
super impressive outcomes. And so that's what made me, want to work for them and use my expertise in marketing program development. I like to maximize whatever it is that I'm working with.
Um, do you have a dream project or a goal that you would like to achieve?
I do, actually. I do. And it has to do with Lyme disease in Connecticut. So I would like to see I would like to be part of having a hyperbaric oxygen therapy facility built and specialize in Lyme disease. And so I need to find one or two MDs or DOs that are interested in more control and autonomy over their practice and that know about the uh, outcomes that hyperbaric oxygen therapy gets for Lyme disease and other diagnoses.
All right, great. So we've got that. We've got your background, how you came up, which was it's good being part of a large family, and you rebelled against that piano teacher, and then you've kind of taken that and freeformed and created the kind of life you want now, and helping people out and get their wellness, and your dream of kind of ending and curing Lyme disease in Connecticut, which is a big thing. It's very, very prevalent amongst people in Connecticut, the nutmeggers. But now we just got some fun facts for you, Hilary. So this will just be real rapid. Just say the first thing that comes to mind. so that people can kind of get a feel for what you're into. So you ready?
Okay,
So
ready?
are you more of an early bird or a night owl?
Well, I wake up at around 6:30 or 7, and I try to get out for a walk in the morning because you just feel it just kind of sets your day.
Great,
But I also like, I like evenings as well. I think I was more of a night owl when I was younger, and now I'm more of an early bird.
great. Now, do you prefer the mountains or the beach in Florida where you're at now?
Has to be the water. Has to be the water. I mean, I love the mountains for a visit, but now I need the water.
See, I should have been. I mean, we could have had Great Plains in there too, since your grandparents are Midwesterners. So I might have to do that in the future. But now, do you prefer coffee, tea, or something else?
I like coffee. Coffee's yes, I like coffee a lot, but I try to limit myself to 2 cups a day. I do limit myself to coffee, the two
Yeah.
cups.
But Hillary, it's been so great to have you on as part of our Back Story series. I want
Thank
to
you,
thank
Rex.
you and looking forward to you coming on the Well Wave Now show to be a part of that. And until next time, stay curious, stay empowered, and remember, wellness, it's in you.